42 million SNAP beneficiaries will lose those benefits. Those cards are going to go to zero. When they go to the grocery store to try to put food on the table, there will be no money in those accounts. And what is Chuck Schumer going to tell those families? It's no longer hypothetical. It's no longer theoretical. It's real suffering and pain, and they know that. We've given you the quotes over and over these last few weeks. They admit they are causing suffering. They're using the American people for leverage, and they just don't care. But I think they're going to start hearing more and more from people. There's some people we've been hearing from. The National Veteran Advocate, his retired U.S. Army Sergeant Eric Donahoe, said this, quote, "The decision to vote against advancing the CR is now causing financial harm to families who serve this country." He went on to say, quote, "When I spoke with Democratic staffers that I know they called this shutdown a political opportunity. They think the more Americans hurt, the more power they gain. They even bragged about it," Donahoe said. Quote, "This isn't a headline to us. It's rent, it's groceries, it's mental health, it's stability." Of course, you've heard just a few days ago, we had the National Air Traffic Controllers Association and the American Federation of Government Employees demanding that Democrats pass the clean CR. More and more, you're seeing this growing chorus of people from all corners, including Democrat corners, telling their own party leaders, stop this madness, end the madness, and vote to open the government. But again, this weekend, it gets even more painful, more suffering that they will impose if they keep this madness up. And so I'm going to try to find 5 Democrat senators. It's all we need is 5. So let's start with Jon Ossoff in Georgia. Starting this weekend, over 1.3 million enrollees in SNAP in his home state of Georgia lose their benefits. 1.3 million, Senator. What are you going to tell those families if you vote no today? If you vote to take their food away this weekend? That's what your vote means today. 109,000 federal workers in his state of Georgia. Of course, the largest airport in America is in his home state of Georgia, and they're already experiencing flight delays in Atlanta. 231,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Senator Ossoff's home state of Georgia if he votes no today. Think about them when you're casting that vote. Senator Warner in Virginia, 825,000 SNAP enrollees in his home state of Virginia. 189,000 federal workers. Don't come up here and give some speech lamenting about the hardships those people are facing when you're the one voting to impose those hardships. You can stop that today by voting yes. 107,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Virginia if Senator Warner votes no. Tina Smith in Minnesota, 452,000 enrollees in the SNAP program, 33,000 federal workers, and 101,000 women, infant, and children in Minnesota will lose their benefits if Tina Smith votes no today. Gary Peters in Michigan, over 1.4 million enrollees in SNAP. No food stamp benefits this weekend to 1.4 million Michiganders. 56,000 federal workers, 189,000 women, infant, and children will go without food this weekend in Michigan if Senator Peters votes no. Senator Sheehan in New Hampshire, 76,000 enrollees in SNAP, 9,000 federal workers, and 12,000 women, infant, and children will go hungry in New Hampshire if Senator Sheehan votes no. I could go on with more and more of these. All we need is 5. That's 5 right there. If they get the courage, they don't have to impose that pain on families. But the only way this suffering is prevented is if they come to their senses and vote yes. We all know the math. We all know it's needed. It's not just math. It's millions and millions of families across this country that will truly suffer and go without food if they vote no today. It's a straightforward vote. We've all voted yes and passed it through the House over a month ago. End the madness and pass this bill. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
We are officially 30 days into the Democrats' needless government shutdown. 30 days that millions of federal workers have gone without a paycheck. 30 days that critical telehealth services and in-home hospital care programs have been put on pause for the vulnerable Americans who need it most. 30 days that our national security has been put at risk due to staffing shortages. Not to mention the SNAP benefits that you've heard our leader go through in detail that will be cut off for more than 40 million low-income Americans if the Democrats fail to reopen the government before Saturday. It's been 30 days of pure obstruction from Democrat lawmakers who care more about appeasing the radical Mamdani and Omar Fata wing of their party than reopening the government for the people they were elected to serve. Americans are hurting. Families are turning to food banks. Major airports are issuing ground stops. But the Democrats don't care. In fact, they've orchestrated this chaos by refusing to support our nonpartisan government funding bill 14 times now. And for what? So that they can kowtow to the people like Kami. And I will just say to my great friend and colleague, Claudia Tenney, socialists are now the moderates in my grandfather's Democrat Party. These are communists and Marxists. They are kowtowing to the people like Kami Mamdani ahead of the election. People are struggling in the meantime to put food on the table, and the Democrats are too busy playing politics to do anything about it. It's disgusting, and it needs to end. I say it every day when we do this. Remember, all we need is 5 Senate Democrats to come to their senses, break ranks with Chuck Schumer, support our clean CR, and reopen the government. It's past time for Democrats in Congress to get serious and do their jobs for the people they were elected to serve, not for the communist mayoral candidate in New York City, our conference chair.
Kami Mamdani, that might stick. That might stick. Well, good. Yeah, the truth hurts, right? Works. All right. Well, this Saturday, SNAP benefits run out for 42 million Americans. 42 million Americans, the SNAP benefits will run out. Let me say it one more time and let it sink in. 42 million families, including thousands in my home state of Michigan, could lose the ability to put food on the table for their families. Why? Because Democrats choose to use their pain and their hunger as leverage. Leverage for more wasteful spending, leverage to satisfy their radical base. And what are Republicans doing? Republicans did their job and are going to continue to do our job. We voted for a clean, responsible bill to keep the government open and fully fund SNAP. So let me be very clear. Republicans voted to continue funding for SNAP and continue to have families have the ability to feed their families. Democrats voted to take food off the table and voted to discontinue SNAP benefits. It is that simple. Democrats voted to shut it down, and they voted to deny food assistance to 42 million Americans. And they voted that way more than a dozen times. Just so y'all didn't get confused, they wanted to make sure that they rubbed it in your face more than a dozen times that they wanted to stop the SNAP benefits. Not just once, not just twice. They wanted to make doggone sure you knew they voted more than a dozen times to kill the SNAP benefits, to take food off your table. Just so you're clear. And let's remember, they did it, and make sure that we don't forget, and let's make sure we remind them who voted to keep food on the table and who voted to take food off the table. Because at some point in time, they're going to reverse what they're talking about and do what they normally do, and that's try and blame us. But let's hold them accountable for once to the votes that they've taken. I can assure you I will. I met one of these recipients last weekend while I was volunteering at a food bank in St. Clair County. His name was Jim. Jim's wife is a teacher, and he's a retired auto worker. They rely on SNAP to help cover the cost of groceries. Jim waited in line for more than 3 hours because he knows he won't be getting his benefits. That's what he told me. But you know what he told me? I thought this was very insightful. He told me, thank you. He told me, thank you for all you're doing to keep the government open. He also told me to please talk to our senators and ask them, since they voted and they campaigned on being moderates and reaching across the aisle, to fulfill their campaign promises and stop using families like Jim as leverage and care about the people that they were elected to represent. I also spoke with a woman who recently lost her husband. She's now raising her grandkids and told me she's never needed help before, but now she's struggling to afford groceries. These are real people struggling, real people that Republicans are actually fighting for, and real people that I am fighting for. Jim is not leverage. Jim is a person with a family to feed. Open up the government and stop using Jim and his family as leverage to kowtow to your radical political base. Do what you know is right and what you have said is right, and open up the government. A farmer back home once told me, when you're not hungry, you have a lot of problems. When you're hungry, you have one. Right now, families on SNAP have a problem, and that problem should never, ever be used as political leverage. So Republicans, we're going to keep on working, and we're going to keep on fighting. And you know what? We will keep showing up. And while we keep demanding that Democrats stop using suffering Americans as pawns in their political games, I implore my two senators, do what you said you were going to do. Do what you said that you are. You've reached across the aisle. You're moderates. You care about people. Well, show that in your actions and vote for a clean CR for families like Jim who you represent. Please, they are counting on you. And every no vote means that you are keeping food from their table. So please, it is time to pass the clean CR and actually put the people who you represent, Americans, first. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. I just want to thank again our colleagues from New York, LaLota and Lawler, Garbarino, Langworthy and Tenney. It's a difficult job to hold the line in that state, but they do it very, very well, and we're grateful they're there, and that there are so many common sense New Yorkers who still believe in freedom and in the greatness of America, and they keep sending us patriots like this to do the job. So we'll take a few questions. Yes, sir. Second row.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. During the last shutdown in 2019, it was the first Trump administration, and they made sure that in the second month of the shutdown, SNAP benefits would go out. They had them sent early. Why do you think they shouldn't do that this time?
Well, the president, this administration has done exactly what he did in the first term, and that is bend over backwards to make sure that we mitigate the harm. We explained here yesterday that any administration in a shutdown scenario has figuratively a control panel of pain dials. In the Obama administration, 2013, when they shut it down, they turned all the dials to 10. They wanted it to hurt, and so remember, famously, they put the yellow crime tape around the World War II memorial and prevented aging veterans from going and visiting these landmarks. They made it hurt. President Trump has done exactly the opposite. I mean, he's done everything he can. He's ordered all of his cabinet secretaries to mitigate the harm. So, for example, as you know, with WIC funding, they found a way to fund that with tariff revenue. We found a way to pay the troops once already in October, hopefully at the end of this month, by moving money around. But it's very difficult to do. Those are not inexhaustible funds. When it comes to SNAP, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism to do it. Unlike with WIC funding that was attached to a 1930s era statute that was related to tariff funds because it was related to nutrition and food coming over the border, there's no such legal avenue to give SNAP funding now. It doesn't exist. The problem is the contingency and the authority to do that was voted down in the CR when the Democrats themselves did it. So the president has lamented this. He has informed USDA and everybody. Do as best you can, but the money doesn't exist to do it. The simplest way to end the pain and the simplest way to make this stop is for the Democrats to do the obvious and right thing and vote for the nonpartisan funding measure so that we can turn everything back on. Then we will get back here, and then we will debate all these other extraneous issues. But right now, the first job of the government is to keep it in operation and take care of the people who depend upon all these services we've articulated today. It's nonsense, and it has to end, and you should be asking them the tough questions, why they're willing to inflict this pain on the people for their partisan political purposes. Yes, ma'am.
Are you writing on those? How do you feel about them? And specifically, how do you feel about the idea of ACA subsidies working group as a commitment?
ACA subsidy working group? Look, I'm not surprised that the conversations are turning up in earnest. I mean, when you're talking about the handful of centrists and moderates that are there, they feel the pressure of this. You have all the major unions now coming out, as we've noted, demanding that they do the right thing and get the paychecks flowing again. You have flights being delayed and canceled. It harms people on their nutrition and their food and everything else. And so this is not a surprise to us. We welcome them doing the right thing, but again, we don't have anything to negotiate because we didn't put any partisan Republican priorities on the CR at all. I don't have anything I can pull off of it to make it more palatable for them. So our urge and our plea to them is just do the darn right thing and open the government. And then we'll figure all the rest of these things out. We were always scheduled. We were always planning to have the debate about the COVID-era subsidies and all these other issues in October, November, December. The COVID-era subsidies don't expire until the end of December. There are all sorts of discussions going on about that, all kinds of ideas. I could give you dozens of them that have been collected just in the House Republican Conference. There needs to be massive reform. There need to be income caps. There needs to be the elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse in that program, which we think is rife in it, and many other things. So there's informal working groups going on as we speak. There's discussions being had amongst all the members, but we've got to get the lights turned back on here and get the services provided to the people so that we can come here and do the rest of the legislative job. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be willing to fund part of the government for the full year, as some of the senators are discussing, without a CR to open?
These rifle shot bills that you keep hearing about deviates from the goal. We have one singular purpose, and that is to reopen and fund the entire government. The Democrats do not get to shut down the government and then make the decision on who's more important than the other and which little thing they want to fund to relieve their own political pain. We have one purpose, and that is turn this thing back on. And all those other efforts are deviations, and it's political games. They're trying to cover their own tails now because they know they have inflicted this pain. I'm going to remind you again 14 times. I bring my chart in every day. I'll bring it back tomorrow because I want everybody to remember. Republicans have voted 14 times to fund the government, and the Democrats have voted 14 times to close it. They are imposing the pain, and now they're feeling a little pain themselves because people are starting to let them hear about it. They better do the right thing. That's all we can say. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned today that the Senate's going to vote for the 15th time, Senate Democrats are supposed to. The Senate's actually not voting today on the CR to fund the government. Do you agree with Leader Thun's decision to let Democrats sit with this over the weekend? They're not voting today on the CR, so the SNAP benefits are going to lapse. They're not taking that vote today.
Well, Leader Thun was pretty upset yesterday. We've all seen the video. Mad John on the floor, and it's appropriate. When we come in here and do these briefings, I can empathize with him because we're happy warriors. I like to come in and have a good time in press conferences and tell you good news and all of that. But this feels very much like in my state, Louisiana is a hurricane state. It's like giving a briefing during a hurricane, you know, a Cat 5 hurricane. You know, right before it hits shores, we put the sandbags around our homes and we board up the windows and we do everything we can to prepare, but we know the real pain is about to hit. And we feel helpless and do anything about it. And that's the same emotion and that we feel here at the podium and when we're on the floor. And Leader Thune let them have it yesterday because they were trying to play games, and we're just fed up with it. He's a very even-tempered, calm guy. I mean, I try to maintain the same demeanor, but it's infuriating to us. I'm not going to second guess his decisions on when they schedule the votes each time, but he's probably about had it with their nonsense. And when they tell him and they thumb their nose at him and give him, you know, and say other things that they like to drop the F-bomb now for fun, for emphasis apparently. When they tell him those things, he probably recognizes it's a futile effort. He realizes they're dug in, they don't care. They're more afraid of the Marxist, socialist, far left in the party than they are the harm that they're going to cause in the American people. That's a fact, and you need to make them try to refute that because they can't. Grateful again for our New York colleagues for holding their ground and standing guard as they do and for being here. Thank you all so much.
C'était le président de la Chambre des députés à Mike Johnson avec tout acolyte au niveau comité qui a géré Chambre Bassin, qui était au même à répondre aux questions. La presse présenté point de vue sur la situation qui a passé Kounia là et équipe parlementaire républicaine continue à fustiger le comportement démocratique qui, selon eux-mêmes, responsable de la situation. Ça, je ne dis à tant que sénateur Rick Scott, pour lui-même, c'est démocratique qui la cause et que gagne moun qui grand rouge je dis il pas qu'à faire différence entre position qui a défendre communiste socialiste en d'un pays par rapport à problème que nation américaine la peut vivre je dis conseil de programme qui révèle aux critiques pour population et le programme ça pour famille je dis pas gain l'argent pour financer à cause gouvernement qui shut down démocratique refusé pour voter dans 13 occasions selon toujours sénateur républicain qui sorti dans état Floride là républicain continue à voter pour l'ouvrir gouvernement mais parce que yo même décidé pour faire ça droite démocrate pourtant refusé pour capable mettre intention idéologie politique en avant par rapport à intérêt société américaine avec famille qui continue à victime selon sénateur Rick Scott qui fait partie de l'équipe républicaine et qui continue à fustiger comportement démocrate. Madame, monsieur, ou branché Pstars FM radio et télévision, pas oublier, jeudi à qui je lié. C'est jeudi, pas vrai? Eh bien, si c'est jeudi lié, c'est Pstars Family Support. Vous brancher, madame, c'est dans le couloir, oui, la vinta.